I'm Brigantia Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Tuesday and welcome to Pagan Problems. We've got a heavy topic on our hands today, and that is divorce. Divorce affects every segment of society, and pagans are no exception. It's a heart-wrenching thing. It's a very serious matter because it does involve the breaking of oaths, but it happens. So let's discuss it. In my own case, I have been married twice, and my first marriage did end in divorce. This was during my Jehovah's Witness days, and I can tell you that getting up to that point and everything that followed was no picnic. I'm quite familiar with the emotional toll of divorce and dealing with social opprobrium and all the rigmarole that goes along with that. That is why I think it's important not to make the process of getting divorced any harder than it already is. Plenty of people go to court with vengeance in mind. They want to ruin their soon-to-be ex-spouse, inflict as much financial damage as they can, and destroy the relationship that they have with their children. And it just creates a nightmare. So as far as what's humanly possible, I advise not going that route. There are better ways to cope with the emotional distress of a divorce, and a drawn-out court process that benefits the bank accounts of lawyers before it ever sees yours. So unless there's a case of abuse involving the children, you don't want to start demonizing them. The children are still going to need both of their parents, even if the parents clearly do not need to be dealing with each other. And when you do demonize your former spouse, that does harm the children and ultimately makes you look bad in their eyes, especially over the long term as they get older and they start viewing things a little bit differently, not just mom said, dad said, and everything else. So if the marriage cannot be reconciled, then the important thing is to get the union legally dissolved with a fair division of property, and that process is greatly benefited if everyone involved conducts themselves with calm and composure. All of the turmoil that led you up to that point, it has happened, it's over, it's time to deal with the consequences. That is not a good time to add more crap on to it. So keep in mind that the whole point of divorce is not having to deal with that person anymore. Now granted, if you do have children together, some contact is going to remain necessary, but if there are no children involved, you don't. So once it's done, it is done. You don't have to have them on your social media. You don't have to say hi to them at the grocery store. You don't have to live in the same state or even the same country. You can go your separate ways, really and truly. So if that is your situation, use the process of your divorce to detach yourself. Going forward with your life is going to look very different. The sooner your mind stops revolving around how angry or sad or whatever else you're feeling about your former spouse, the sooner you are going to heal and rebuild your life, hopefully with greater wisdom this time. Now lean into your spiritual practice during this difficult moment. Even if you 100% wanted the divorce to happen, you're glad the process is underway, you feel like it is such a relief to be getting this over with and moving forward, it's still going to shake up the foundations of your life, and that's going to have some side effects. Certainly there are going to be some practical concerns you will have to deal with, having to economize so you can live on your own. It's always easier to make it with two incomes than it is with one, so that is probably going to be an issue. Getting paperwork in order, changing the beneficiaries on insurance policies, updating your medical emergency contacts, mortgage and rental agreements, all that stuff. However, while you're in the midst of dealing with these practical concerns, it is also prudent to address spiritual concerns. Marriage joins the spirit. Dissolving that bond leaves wounds, and not always obvious ones. So meditation, cord-cutting rituals, and spiritual cleansings are absolutely called for during this time. Now, you may not feel like doing any of these things, you're probably lacking in energy, but divorce is not a good time to neglect your spiritual needs. Power through it, do what you need to do to take care of yourself, if at all possible. Another thing to consider is whether or not the deities you work with most often have any experience with the end of marriages, or any deities associated with that pantheon. For example, in the Norse pantheon, Njord and Skadi, they could not make their marriage work. They parted ways. And doubtless there are other deities of other pantheons who have stories of a similar nature. So look to them. Make offerings, ask for advice, in whatever form they care to give that advice. They may just see fit to provide guidance for you that helps you get through your divorce with relatively good grace and hopefully move on to bigger and better things. And also don't underestimate the benefit of having a supportive spiritual community. Now, your previous religious background and those who are still associated with that background, they may or may not be of any help to you at this time. I can tell you with certainty that the Jehovah's Witness organization is absolutely useless in matters of divorce, and perhaps your own previous spiritual community is equally unhelpful. Maybe even you are in the unfortunate circumstance that your non-pagan relatives aren't being particularly supportive of you at this time. So for all those reasons, and including all the other things that could possibly happen that I haven't mentioned, look to your spiritual community. Even if you practice on your own, there's bound to be some kind of like-minded community on social media. Now, one of the reasons why I created Blackbird's Brew on Discord was in the hope that when people go through life's ups and downs, they can be in contact with other pagans, share both the triumphs and the troubles of life. And when you're going through upheaval, particularly divorce, it's nice to be around people who have a decent understanding of your worldview so you don't have to translate what you're going through for them. You don't have to explain why you view things the way that you do, the thought process that you went through, because you're around people on a similar wavelength and you can talk in a kind of shorthand, and that can be a great relief just in and of itself. So whether you find your oasis at Blackbird's Brew or elsewhere on social media, seek out spiritual community. Not only would it make the trauma of divorce easier to bear, but it's also a way of rebuilding your social circle and expanding the range of your acquaintance. And anytime you're beginning a new chapter in life, it's a good idea to do just that. So that sums up my thoughts on divorce at this time. Let me know what you think, either in the comments below, or you can come see me on Discord at Blackbird's Brew. There's a link to join in the description box below, and I would be very happy to speak with you there. But in the meantime, I will see you in the next one. Bye.